Imagine a world where in just one moment you are no longer the hunter, but the prey. Here, beasts are not in cages, not in fairy tales. They are real, and they kill. This happened in India, in the remote Bahraich district of Uttar Pradesh. In the summer of 2024, villagers began to face something no one expected in the 21st century: a series of deadly wolf attacks. Imagine, poor villages, clay huts without doors, many people still sleeping under the open sky. And it was at night that the wolves started breaking into homes, dragging children away, and attacking adults. In just a few months, at least 10 people were killed and more than 30 seriously injured. The majority of victims were small children. The villagers lived in constant fear. Parents were afraid to leave their kids even for a moment. Many families started sleeping on rooftops or building improvised fences out of wood and tin sheets. The government was forced to respond. In August, a special operation called Operation Badiyah began. Police, forest officials, and even drones with thermal cameras were deployed to track the wolves. Indian media broadcasted daily reports. Journalists visited villages, interviewed families of the victims, showed broken doors of huts and abandoned children's toys. The atmosphere was so tense that people did not know whether it was safe to go to the fields. Experts believe the aggression was caused by the loss of natural habitat. Wolves lost access to their usual prey and turned to hunting humans. This is not the first case in India's history, but the Bahraich tragedy became one of the largest in recent decades. This story shows how fragile the balance is between humans and wildlife, and how quickly it can turn into tragedy when wild animals lose their natural space. In August 2013, Canada witnessed a tragedy that shocked the entire world. In the small town of Campbellton, New Brunswick, two brothers, 4-year-old Noah and 6-year-old Connor, were spending the night in an apartment above a friend's exotic pet shop. During the night, an African rock python weighing over 100 pounds escaped from its terrarium. The snake crawled through ventilation ducts, fell from the ceiling, and landed in the children's room as they slept. Within minutes, it coiled around the boys and suffocated them. The shop owner discovered the scene in the morning, a horror that quickly made global headlines. 2 children strangled by pet python. A court investigation followed. While the owner was initially accused of negligence, he was later acquitted because he had technically followed housing regulations. This tragedy became a turning point in the debate over exotic pets, reminding the world that wild instincts can never be fully contained, no matter the setting. In San Francisco Zoo, a chilling incident unfolded that continues to spark conversations about safety in captivity. In 2005, a female Siberian tiger named Tatiana arrived from Denver Zoo. Initially, she showed no aggression toward people, but on December 22, 2006, disaster struck. During a public feeding, Tatiana reached through the enclosure bars and mauled zookeeper Lori Komagin's arm, resulting in severe lacerations and multiple surgeries. The zoo was fined, and Lori was left with permanent arm damage. Then, 1 year later on Christmas Day 2007, Tatiana escaped again, this time with fatal consequences. She managed to climb or jump out of her enclosure, which was later found to be significantly shorter than required standards. She attacked 3 visitors. 17-year-old Carlos Eduardo Sousa Jr. was killed, and brothers Amrit Pal and Kolbir Dhaliwal were seriously injured. The animal was shot by armed officers, the first recorded fatality by an escaped animal in a member zoo's history. Investigations revealed security flaws. The enclosure wall was substantially lower than safety standards, with claw marks and evidence of Tatiana pushing against it. The zoo underwent extensive renovations, raising walls, adding glass panels, installing electrified hot wires, and placing loudspeakers to remind guests of closing times. This tragedy marked a watershed moment for American zoos. It was a stark reminder that wild animals retain their instincts behind bars, and that safety must always come first. Sharm El-Sheikh has always been seen as a paradise. Warm Red Sea waters, coral reefs, and happy holidaymakers. But in December 2010, this dream resort became the scene of terror. It began on December 1st. Tourists snorkeling off the beaches had no idea that predators were circling nearby. Within hours, several attacks occurred. 3 Russians and 1 Ukrainian were brutally injured. 1 woman lost her arm, another tourist lost a leg, and others were left with deep, life-changing wounds. Many thought it was a freak accident, but 4 days later, on December 5th, tragedy struck again. A 71-year-old German woman, who had vacationed there for years, was swimming just a few meters from shore when a mako shark attacked. The attack was so sudden and violent that rescuers couldn't save her. She died in front of horrified beachgoers. The Egyptian authorities immediately closed the beaches. Tourists were ordered out of the water. Locals feared even going near the sea. International experts were flown in to investigate. Some suggested that sheep carcasses dumped into the sea during a festival attracted the sharks. Others pointed to overfishing, pushing predators closer to the coast. There were even suspicions that tourist companies had been feeding sharks for shows, which may have increased their aggression. For more than a week, the resort was paralyzed by fear. The calm Red Sea was replaced by ambulance sirens and TV cameras. This tragedy reminded the world that even in a tropical paradise, nature remains wild, and sometimes deadly. On December 23, 2024, a quiet evening in a small Idaho town turned into a nightmare that made national headlines across the United States. A young mother was at home with her infant son. The baby was calmly resting in his car seat inside the living room when, out of nowhere, a raccoon managed to sneak into the house. What happened next was terrifyingly fast. The raccoon lunged at the baby, biting and scratching. The infant's screams pierced the silence. The mother, hearing the cries, rushed in and with her bare hands tore the animal away from her child. She managed to save him, but not before he suffered serious injuries to his face and body. He was rushed to the hospital, where doctors treated his wounds and monitored him closely. The raccoon was captured and euthanized shortly after. Veterinary services tested it for rabies, and the results came back negative. But the story had already spread like wildfire. News outlets across the country showed images of the damaged car seat. Reporters interviewed shocked neighbors, and doctors explained how extremely rare such incidents are. "We know raccoons dig through trash bins," one local resident said, "but to come inside a house and attack a baby? That's unthinkable." Experts emphasized that raccoons usually avoid humans and are not known for such aggression, especially indoors. But in this case, the wild instincts of the animal took over, and a child became the victim. The event sparked debates online and on television. Some called for stricter control of raccoon populations in residential areas, while others argued that humans are partly to blame for leaving food waste around that attracts wildlife. This rare yet shocking incident served as a reminder. Even within the walls of our own homes, we are not always safe. On June 10, 2025, a new alarming incident occurred in the famous Yellowstone National Park. At around 9:45 a.m., near the renowned Old Faithful geyser, Upper Geyser Basin, a 30-year-old tourist from New Jersey came too close to a bison. The large bull immediately reacted to this invasion of its personal space and gored the man, causing injuries that, fortunately, were not fatal. Medical staff provided assistance on the spot and transported him to a clinic. This was already the second such incident of the year. A similar attack took place last month on May 7th, and in previous years such events also occurred, 2 in 2024 and 1 in 2023. The park repeatedly reminds visitors about the minimum safe distance, at least 25 yards, approximately 23 meters, from large animals such as bison, and 100 yards, approximately 91 meters, from predators. But some tourists still ignore these rules, which leads to dangerous situations. Bison are unpredictable, fast, up to 35 miles per hour, and can become aggressive if people violate their comfort zone. This incident once again served as a reminder. Even in one of the most renowned parks in the world, Wild animals never lose their wild nature, and just a little carelessness can result in dangerous consequences for humans. On February 24, 2010, tragedy struck at SeaWorld Orlando in front of a live audience. During a daytime show, experienced killer whale trainer Dawn Brancheau was working with a 12-ton male orca named Tilikum. This whale was one of the park's main attractions, but also had a history of unpredictable and aggressive behavior. At the end of the performance, as Dawn leaned over the pool to interact with him, Tilikum suddenly grabbed her by the hair and, with tremendous force, pulled her underwater. Witnesses later described how the orca refused to let go for several minutes, tossing her, dragging her under, and surfacing again. At first, many spectators thought it was part of the show, until the horror became undeniable. Staff rushed to help, throwing equipment, sounding alarms, but Tilikum would not release her. Dawn tragically died from drowning and severe trauma sustained during the struggle. She was just 40 years old. Her death became a turning point. For the first time, such a fatal incident unfolded in full view of the public. It ignited a worldwide debate. Should orcas ever be kept in captivity? These are highly intelligent, social, and powerful predators that do not adapt well to confined tanks. SeaWorld faced an avalanche of criticism, and the incident became central to the documentary Blackfish, which reshaped public opinion about marine parks. Dawn Brancheau's legacy remains tied to this pivotal moment, a reminder of the risks of working with wild animals and the ethical questions of entertainment built on their captivity. In August 2006, Malaysia was shaken by a tragedy that quickly made headlines worldwide. Ali Khan Samsudin, a famous snake charmer known as the King of Cobras, was killed by the very creature he had dedicated his life to. Ali became renowned for his daring performances. He could spend hours inside a cage with dozens of snakes, lift them with his bare hands, and even kiss their heads. His shows drew crowds of tourists, and in interviews he admitted to surviving over 100 snake bites thanks to anti-venom and sheer resilience. But during one performance with a king cobra, one of the most dangerous snakes in the world, tragedy struck. The cobra suddenly bit his hand. Ali tried to continue the act, but within minutes he collapsed. He was rushed to the hospital and given anti-venom, but doctors could not save him. He died at the age of 48. His death was both symbolic and tragic. A man who devoted his life to snakes and built his career around them was ultimately killed by them. The event sparked headlines across the globe, serving as a reminder that even the most skilled experts cannot fully control wild nature. Ali Khan Samsudin left behind a legacy that still raises debates today. Where does artistry end and deadly risk begin? In July 2022, a horrific yet unexpectedly tragic incident occurred in Pennsylvania. 27-year-old Elliot Senseman, an experienced exotic snake rescuer and keeper, fell victim to a fatal accident. A massive 18-foot boa constrictor wrapped itself tightly around his neck. The incident unfolded during the day when a family member called the police. Responding officers discovered Senseman in cardiac arrest, with the snake constricting his neck. One officer made a split-second decision to fatally shoot the boa, freeing him. Tragically, Elliot suffered an anoxic brain injury, a lack of oxygen to the brain due to constriction, and later died in hospital. His death, ruled an accident by the coroner, gripped media attention across the U.S. It became a rare, disturbing headline. A man who understood and cared for exotic snakes was killed by one. This event serves as a grim reminder that even seasoned handlers face fatal risks. Senseman's death sparked critical dialogue across the exotic pet community about safety protocols, responsibility, and the unpredictable nature of wildlife. On May 6, 2025, at Lake Kissimmee near the mouth of Tiger Creek, 61-year-old Cynthia Dekema was tragically killed in an alligator attack. She was canoeing with her husband in about 2.5 feet of water when their canoe passed directly over a submerged 11-foot, 4-inch alligator. This prompted the reptile to erupt upwards, capsizing their boat and throwing the couple into the water. The alligator immediately bit Cynthia in the torso and performed a fatal death roll, dragging her under and swimming away with her. Her husband's attempts to save her were unsuccessful. Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission, FWC, officers, Polk County deputies, and a contracted alligator trapper responded quickly, captured the gator, and recovered her body. Although alligator attacks are rare, this tragedy reminded everyone of the danger. Since 1948, there have been 487 unprovoked alligator bites in Florida, 27 of which were fatal. The FWC emphasized heightened caution during mating season, when alligators can be particularly aggressive. In response, FWC launched the Gator-Wise public safety campaign, advising people not to feed alligators, keep pets away from water's edge, and only swim in designated areas during daylight. We've just heard a handful of stories, but in reality, there are hundreds more. Humans try to live alongside wild nature, yet sometimes that closeness turns into tragedy. Alligators, tigers, snakes, sharks, each one reminds us, we are not masters of this world, only its guests. Which of these stories struck you the most? Write in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts.